The Connection Show. Inspiring hope, health, healing. Sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops. Live with Jill Reynolds. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like our page. Share it. Subscribe to it now and click the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming shows.
The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. Joining me today is Warren Matson. Welcome to the show, Warren.
Jill, it is so good to be with you. I'm excited.
Well, thank you again for coming on. I'd like the audience to know a few of the things that you do. So Warren is a filmmaker, a director. He's a producer, a writer, a speaker, a saxophonist, a pastor, and a realtor. And so we're going to find out what they all have in common as we get to know him today. And so Warren, on this show, we do things a little bit different on this show. We really believe that connecting the dots of someone's life and sharing that story with those listening, when the person listening could hear your story and look for the similarities in it instead of the differences, that's when I really do believe transformation takes place. And Jesus did this when he walked the face of the earth. He loved to tell stories, accounts, and parables so that the listeners that heard Jesus could have transformation in their lives. So with that, would you be willing to take the audience back in time to little Warren growing up and what your life was like with happy times as well as the struggles you've gone through in life? Because if we just share the happy times without any struggles, it's hard to see transformation in someone's life. So if you'll share with us, we'd love to learn about little Warren.
Wow, Jill. Well, this is an interesting question, not expecting, but I'm happy to go there. In this last year, I've done a lot of work in writing my story from when I was born. I was a one last time baby, meaning that my mom and dad were having some difficulties. I was the one more child. And unfortunately, my parents still ended up in divorce. And so I grew up with this great weight of almost like responsibility from my mom. I always said, I'm going to marry you, mommy, and that was really cute. But there was just that void. And as I ended up going into grade school, I discovered everybody else seemed to have a mom and dad, and I was the only one that didn't have a dad. And so that felt awkward, and there was a overarching sense of not belonging, like somehow I didn't belong. I was believing into that lie. And thankfully now I know that I do belong. And even though I was a fatherless child, I had a father that I didn't know, one in heaven, who is a father to the fatherless. So anyway, yeah, I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I have one older brother, two older sisters, but I was the baby and almost the spoiled only child, almost like, I never had any hand-me-on-down clothes or those kinds of things. I was really loved, really cared for. But, I struggled in my early development in school. I didn't like my first grade teacher. We did not get along at all. And she sent me to the back of the class. And my academic experience was really suffering all the way till fifth grade. In fifth grade, I spent more time in the hallway than I was in the classroom. And the reason for that is my teacher just was so frustrated with me. I didn't do my work. And back in the day, if they would have been diagnosing ADD like we do now, I probably would have had a drip of Ritalin right into my desk there. So anyway, there was a fifth grade teacher of another class who he was speaking to my teacher and goes, "What's with this kid? He's always in the hallway." Oh, that kid, he never listens to me. He never does his homework. And Mr. Fricky said, let me have him. Let me see if I can do something with him. And so I thought, okay, I'm on for a new challenge. Mr. Fricky brought me into his class. And the next thing you know, he says, Matson, where's your homework? And I went up and I said, well water. We're not talking about well water. We're talking about your homework. And I said, I was going to do it. Great, you were going to do it. Then what happened? I thought, this guy is really strange. I was going to do it, but cigarette butt, smoke butt. I ought to kick your butt. I want to see your homework. Go sit down. This guy, Jill, loved me. He saw this was a kid in trouble, and he changed my life. Not only did I find out my excuses were harder to come up with than just doing my homework, but then I started experiencing the reward. And so when you talk about transformation, Mr. Fricky transformed my life. And it was in his class that he made me the audio visual monitor. And back in the day, we used to have 16 millimeter films.
Yep.
I learned how to splice those things. And sometimes if it wasn't in the machine right, the film would end up all over the place. And I became so skilled at showing films in classes that he would send me to other classrooms. And if they were having a problem, they would send me to, fix it. So I say all of that to say, even in the brokenness of my family and the struggles even that I had in grade school, I was unaware of the Lord's presence, but he was very aware of me, and he was at work even though I was completely unaware.
So, during this time of growing up then and your parents divorcing, did your father not come and have visitation and take you kids out and do things with you?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, when he left, he was gone. We had no idea where he was.
Okay. And you never reconnected with him ever in your life?
I did when I was 14 years old.
And so how did that happen? Share with us what happened there.
Okay. So I was in a VFW drill team, and we were twirling rifles and all of this. And my mom was in a drum and bugle corps with the VFW. So we were part of a VFW because of my dad's being in World War II. But, he wasn't a part of our life at all, but we still continued with VFW. And we ended up winning the national, the state competition, and we were going on to nationals. And the month before we were going to Minnesota for this championship drill team competition, we found out my dad lived in Forest Lake, Minnesota. So we got to the hotel. My mom looked in the phone book. There was my dad's name and number. She calls him up and says, Chuck, this is Dorothy, and your son Warren is performing in this championship competition. We thought maybe you'd like to come to the hotel and meet him. So then I ended up meeting my dad for the first time.
Wow. And did he come to the competition?
He did. And then he also took me out fishing a couple of months afterwards. So I did get to know him. Did he stay in touch with you thereafter or not? I probably saw him 20 times in my life, if that.
Is he passed on now?
He has. Yeah.
Well, that was good. So at least you had some connection and at least some feelings of, your heritage and who your dad was. Just knowing that, I'm sure had some relief and some burden in your life. Some, not probably fully, but at least you had that identity that you could see.
I really did. And I really felt like I was reconciled with my dad. Mm-hmm. And reconciliation is a thread throughout almost all of the storytelling I do. It's just a deep conviction in my spirit that we've been given that ministry of reconciliation, and it is so needed. And oftentimes it's really being neglected or overlooked.
Yeah. And so where along this journey did you pick up the saxophone?
Oh my. So I went to 7th grade band class, and I had been taking some drum lessons. And so I go to the band director and I said, I play drums. And he goes, I got so many drummers are coming out of my ears. You don't want to be drummer. I'll make your life miserable. And he says, I need a tuba player. And he wrote tuba. So I took this note home for my mom to sign for me to play tuba. And she said, over my dead body. I was this trippy little kid. So I go back and I I say to Mr. Yundra, well, my mom said I can play tuba, but we have to kill her first. And what? And I told him what happened. He crossed out tuba and he wrote saxophone. And I had no idea what a saxophone was, but my mom signed it, and I've been playing for 45 years.
Wow. So that fifth grade teacher who started you on a journey of some self-worth and self-esteem, and then him showing you AV stuff, audio, video, and now you're in seventh grade and you're in band. And so you start coming to life, huh? You start coming to life. Yeah.
It's really true, Jill. We were in a rehearsal once, the band director, I was probably in 10th or 11th grade, and he's directing the band, and he stops and he goes, Matson, what do you call that thing at the end of the neck? The mouthpiece. Yeah. He says, are you blowing on that or are you sucking on it? And I was like mortified, and the kids are all laughing. And he says, what do you call those notes that get further and further apart? I said, crescendo. What does that mean? Get louder. He says, great. Do you think maybe you could blow on that mouthpiece instead of sucking on it? And I was like, oh my gosh. And so he started the band up, and we started getting to that crescendo. And Jill, I played my ever-loving brains out. I couldn't have played it any louder. I just was like honking like a goose, but he wanted it louder. I gave it to him louder. And then he stops the band. He said, flutes, a little bit of this, clarinets, this. And he goes, oh, Matson, that was better. If you could give me a little bit more. And then he kind of winked at me, But what happened, Jill, the next rehearsal, I get to this place that I'd just been playing without getting loud, and I almost forgot. And when I started to play that crescendo, it was like goosebumps. And suddenly I went from playing notes to making music. It was a transformational experience where now I'm starting to notice other places with crescendos and decrescendos and the dynamics. And I was getting mad at other people for not making music. Come on, let's do this. So.
Well, what I'm noticing, now that we're talking, is the crescendo in your voice, and the excitement as you share your story. It comes to life from that little boy into someone now who is really starting to shine. And so through this, Warren, bring to light of where did Jesus come into your life?
Okay. I'm 18 years old. I'm in a rock and roll band. And my life I was stoned more days than straight, right? We were in this band.
And were you playing saxophone in the rock and roll band? Okay.
Yes, freestone. Right. A lot of Chicago, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Doobie Brothers. Mm-hmm. And our band was ending. So I was in this band for about 3 years. We were playing at a wedding of some friends of mine. And we come to a break. And there's this guy who comes up and he goes, hey, man, I like the way you play sax. And I said, oh, great. Yeah, thanks. He goes, I play piano. And I said, oh, that's really good. And I wanted to go visit with some of my family during our break. But I looked at him. I said, so who do you know here? And he goes, I don't know anybody. I'm here with my mom. She's friends with the bride's mother. So I'm kind of her escort. So I felt bad for the guy. And I ended up talking to him through my break. And Jill, he said to me, how's everything, Warren? And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, how are you doing? And all of a sudden I had this weird sensation, like I was missing something, like I didn't have my wallet, or I wasn't wearing my watch or my belt. And I told him, I said, it's really weird. I feel like I'm missing something and I don't know what it is. And then I said to him, it feels like I'm missing something on the inside. I don't know why I was talking like this. I didn't know this guy from Adam. And he says to me, Warren, I think you need to know God loves you. And prior to that time, Jill, if anybody ever tried to talk to me about God, I had all my defenses up. The Bible's full of contradictions. Church is full of hypocrites. You know how it is. And when he said, Warren, I think you need to know God loves you, I knew that was truth. And I had no defenses for it. So I went home, got home from the gig that night about 2:30 in the morning, knelt next to my bed, and I prayed one of those, God, if you're really there, prayers. So in October of 1976, I was born again, and I've been living with him all this time.
Wow. So a pastor, a saxophonist, and now an AV, and a lost boy who's come to life. So now let's bring to life the realtor and the filmmaker. What comes next?
Well, so I was pastoring a church. I went to American Indian Bible College in Phoenix, Arizona for 4 years, and then pastoral counseling for 2 years in Ashland, Ohio.
So not only did Jesus come into your heart, but now he was going to have you preach and teach.
That's right.
Okay, go ahead.
So came back to Milwaukee, and I was the youth pastor of the church that my wife and I got married at. And the pastor there retired 4 months after I had shown up. And so I ended up becoming the senior pastor of this Assembly of God church. Beautiful church. But I just really had this sense that I wish we didn't have so much emptiness in the inner city. A lot of our Assembly of God churches were in the city, and then we all migrated out to the suburbs. And so, long story short, I ended up pastoring or planting a church in the central city of Milwaukee, and I was there for 10 years. And so culturally, that was just a wonderful experience for me to have had that, that along with the Native American Bible College that I attended. I love being with other culture. Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. And then how about now? So pastoring, and now let's go to filmmaking and realtor. So where did this come into play?
Okay. So when I was then at First Love, the inner city church, I was slinging boxes for UPS and in the morning, and I wasn't making much money, and I was getting really tired. So I stumbled into a real estate office in 2020, and that was a beautiful mix of a working pastor, so that there's a bivocational element there needed, because in the inner city, they just didn't have the resources to pay me a full-time salary. So I started in 2020 as a real estate agent. And then also while I was at this church, I saw a flyer that said, make a movie in 48 hours. So in 2007, I got some friends together and we took a weekend and we made a movie for the 48-hour film project. And Jill, it was awful. it's unwatchable. But
it was fun.
It was fun, and we learned a lot, but I really felt like a deer caught in headlights. So I thought, I'll probably never do this again, but I did do it again and ended up making 12 of these. So for the filmmaking side, that's how I got started in 2007, doing a weekend film. And then I repeated that several times. And then I really started feeling like God was calling me to tell stories using film.
I love it. And then from there, you ended up not only filmmaking, but directing, producing, and writing, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So I had some of that experience in the 48s. And I've always used the name Crossword Films. And so that's the film company name now that I have. But we always use Crossword Films. And I think of the cross as the absolute central part of our experience. And when I think of word, I think of logos, and it's like the meaning, and our meaning in life really comes from the love of God that was demonstrated on the cross. So Crossword Films.
And now there's in Branson, Missouri, which is where I now live. I'm originally a Chicago girl, so we were neighbors. I live in Branson, and in Branson, Missouri, they're having this amazing International Film Festival coming up April 21st to 23rd. And I understand, Warren, and help me to know that within you, are you going to be coming to the film festival yourself, or are you will be here? All right. Well, that's awesome. So I'm going to stop for a moment and show Warren's bio here on the screen. And he does have a website, which is asongcanchangealife.com. And this is his bio and his website as well. Below this, I'm going to show you this flyer of the film festival. And so it's going to be hosted at the Copeland Theater at the Meadows, which is on Gretna Road here in Branson, Missouri. And tickets are available by going to bransonfilmfestival.com. It's going to be amazing. There will be filmmakers there. There'll be writers. There'll be directors, producers, and actors. And our beloved Kevin Sorbo and Sam Sorbo will be here as well. And actually, Kevin's going to be on my show this Friday, so you'll have to stay tuned hearing Kevin's story. And so tell us a little bit about, is your film entered into the film festival?
Yes, yeah. It is called A Song Can Change a Life. And A Song Can Change a Life came about when I was in Nashville in 2017 attending a story conference. It's a storytelling conference, great speakers and whatnot. And so I got to the airport really early that day. I had 4 hours to listen to musicians and just relax. So I walk up to this gentleman playing his guitar, Joe West, and I put $5 in his case. And he goes, "Hey, thanks, man, take a CD." And I said, "Oh, thanks." And I just made a joke, Joe. I said, "Do you have any saxophones in them cases behind you?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Oh, I thought maybe I could jam with you." And he says, "Oh, the management, doesn't just let us have anybody." And I said, "I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding." I said, "Maybe I'll have you come to Milwaukee and we can jam there sometime." So he says, "Are you in a band?" And I said, "No, I play in church mostly." And he says, "Praise and worship and Jesus?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, no, you started something in me." And I don't know this guy. I didn't know if I offended him. I said, "Oh, I hope it's okay." He goes, "No, it's all good." I said, "Well, great." So I get my coffee, sit down, and he starts singing 16 tons. And what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. And I'm thinking, I could totally jam with this guy. I'm digging his vibe. And he sang a few other songs, and I'm sipping my coffee. And suddenly he says, "Warren, this next song is for you." And I was shocked to hear my name over the speakers and that he remembered me. And he sang a song, Jill, that was like a hot knife through butter. And it was a Tommy Walker song.
I love Tommy Walker. I got to pause there for a minute because my husband and I got married. This May, it'll be 21 years. And on my wedding, the song, when they pronounce you husband and wife, I had them play the song, "He's turned my mourning into dancing again." and I was dancing down the aisle as they pronounced it. It was so I love Tommy Walker.
Yeah. So that's what happened. He sang the song and I started crying and it was so beautiful. So he finished his set, sat down next to me. He goes, "Hey man, I got 20 minutes. Tell me your story." And I'm thinking, I want to know his story. So I really kept it to 10 minutes or less. And I told him about a time I was an interim pastor in Urbana, Ohio, back in 2014. I had written a play of racial reconciliation about a white family and a black family that met during the snowstorm of a century in 1939 on Christmas Eve, and they celebrated Christmas together and they experienced racial reconciliation. He goes, "That's awesome." And then I said, "So tell me your story." And that's when he said, "Well, my mom and dad was America's first black country Western duo." I said, "Really? What was that like?" And then he told me about how when he was 12 years old, he went with his mom and dad to Harrison, Arkansas. And he goes, "If you don't know, Harrison is kind of KKK central. And back in the day, they got there and they were booked. And when the guy saw his parents, he's, 'Who are you?' And we're the West. We're here to perform." And they didn't realize.
I'm going to have you pause there because
Okay.
Joe's going to be on my show. So I don't want to. That's okay. That's all right. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Don't want to steal his thunder.
So you then wrote a film, created a film about his life.
That's right. So when he told me his story, I said, "How would you like to do a documentary about your mom and dad?" And so then it was within 25 minutes, Joe, our hearts were bonded in friendship. I really consider Joe to be one of my best friends. Yeah,
wow.
really
So we're going to have him on the show. And
Great.
Then you're both, is Joe coming to Branson too with you? Or
yes, he'll be there on Thursday, the night that his film is screening.
Good. And you'll be here Thursday as well?
I'll be here the whole time.
Good. And I'll be there Thursday as well. So
Yay.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. I am so happy that you came on to the show. We have so much in common. I can't wait to talk to you after we're finished. And then we'll definitely go to bransonfilmfestival.com and get your tickets now so that you can meet Joe West and you can meet Warren in person and come out on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and just enjoy this. This is a family-friendly event. So just bring the kids, bring the family, and come watch some phenomenal films and meet the different writers, filmmakers, actors, and actresses. Thanks so much again for joining us, Warren.
Jill, thank you. It really has been a pleasure meeting you.
God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Connection Show, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops Live with Jill Reynolds. MyPillow, our show's featured affiliate partner, thanks you for your support. Stand with Mike Lindell by shopping at MyPillow. To receive a free gift, make sure you use the promo code Braveheart when you check out and receive up to 66% off select items. MyPillow guarantees the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own. Drop into mypillow.com/Braveheart today. To check out faster, use your cell phone to scan the QR code and click on the website now to order. Go to mypillow.com/Braveheart and order today. Thanks for joining us today on The Connection Show, where we bring you stories that will transform your life. The Connection Show would appreciate your support. Please go to either our Patreon page or our PayPal Me Now link today. We love our podcast show guests and appreciate our listeners and YouTube subscribers. Please go to our YouTube channel called The Connection Show and Braveheart Workshops and subscribe now. Remember to click the gray bell in the All tab so you don't miss any upcoming episodes.